and not true, is when you start to go south, it gets warmer as you go toward the equator. Like in the northern states, just here in the U.S., in the northern states, it's warmer when you start to go south. You start to travel south, it gets warmer. That's because the equator is closer to the sun than the states in the north. So the further south you go toward the equator, the warmer it gets. And any land masses, or water, or anything, but we don't know about the water because we don't live in the water. We live on land. Any land masses that are right around the equator are always warm. Even in the wintertime, they're warmer than places that are not around the equator. In the northern hemisphere. So that's a way you can tell the earth is round. When you start to go toward the equator, meaning here in the U.S., when you start to go south, southern states, and to Mexico and any states that are south, it gets warmer. And with that, it's time for us to take another break. We'll be right back. Keep listening, please.
You're listening to a man who's almost intelligent. Very close. Welcome back to Probably Offensive. One hell of a show. Yeah.
I'm almost intelligent. She's right. But I'm 100% sane. And that's what I've been talking about. This is not what I intended on talking about, but I intended on just mentioning it for a brief minute. Now, moving on. I'll have to talk about that all the time, though. I'll have to touch on it because I want to remind people, because I've been arguing so much with people who think that I should retract statements that I've made on my podcast. You should retract statements that weren't right. And the answer is no. The show's called Probably Offensive for a reason. Because it's probably offending someone as we speak. Someone who doesn't appreciate what I'm saying will be offended. Probably. To me, I'm not saying anything that should be offensive. But to other people, someone's always offended. Anyhow, I wanted to mention some celebrity deaths, which I usually would have done already. I would have mentioned them at the top of the show. So, I think last time I done a podcast, I did mention Norm Macdonald and Betty White died here as of recently. But now Colin Powell has died. And most of you know who Colin Powell is. Or shall I say who Colin Powell was. He was a general in the military. I don't remember what branch, so I don't want to say. he was a general. I know he was a general. I know he was Secretary of State for President Bush. I know he died from COVID. And I do believe he was vaccinated. So that doesn't look good for the vaccine crowd. And myself, even though, like I said, I have not been vaccinated. I was going to get vaccinated. And I found out that you still can get COVID or pass it. So what's the point of getting vaccinated if you never had any symptoms? You know, in this whole, 2 years? COVID was discovered in COVID-19, 2019. And now it's 2021. So we've been in the pandemic for 2 years. But I did read the CDC website, and there was an article on the CDC website that they printed, they put on there, that says people who catch COVID, or put it this way, people who are vaccinated, there's only a very small percentage of those people. And to me, a small percentage is 1, or 2, 3. Single digits is a small percentage. If it's 10%, that's not small. So, the CDC website, I do believe, said that 64% of people who are vaccinated cannot catch COVID or pass COVID. That's what I got off the CDC website. So the person who was against the vaccination, who told me, you need to read the CDC website. I went and read the CDC website. I don't know what they were looking at, but I do believe, this has been many weeks ago since I've read it myself. And they always changing information on there. But at that time, the information that they had on there, they said 64% of people who get vaccinated cannot catch COVID or pass it. So 64% still leaves 36%, right? Of people who get vaccinated can catch COVID and pass it. And for you to die from COVID after you've been vaccinated means that you had something else going on. Or maybe you had already had COVID before you got vaccinated. If you already had COVID before you, like if you catch COVID and then you go get vaccinated 2 days later, the vaccine ain't going to do you any good. You already got COVID. The vaccine is going to be worse for you, actually. If you catch COVID and then get vaccinated within a few days or a week later or something, the vaccine will do worse for you because the vaccines introduce a strand of the virus for your body's immune system to pick up on and build protection against. So, you want to get vaccinated, you should be totally healthy before you do it, not fighting COVID or any other illness. Or the vaccine might be worse for you. But anyway, I was mentioning Colin Powell has died, and he did die from COVID. And he was vaccinated. And Peter Scolari also died. Those of you who are sitting there scratching your head saying, who in the hell is Peter Scolari? If you're more than 15 minutes old, you might remember Peter Scolari was a guy in a show called Bosom Buddies. Bosom Buddies was a show that Tom Hanks, superstar actor Tom Hanks, was on. Bosom Buddies. Tom Hanks got famous. Peter Scolari did not. I mean, he was famous. Obviously, he's on a hit show. But Bosom Buddies was a show that was on when I was a kid. So, Peter Scolari, I don't know how old he was when he was on Bosom Buddies, but probably in his 20s, not very old. He was a friend of Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks had gotten him some other parts. He'd been in some other movies, but that's because Tom Hanks helped him out. But for some reason, his career didn't blossom like Tom Hanks' career took off after Bosom Buddies. Tom Hanks got one part after another and was the star of several movies, as you know. Tom Hanks, a good actor. He's a great actor. And Peter Scolari, he wasn't a bad actor either. He was a good actor himself. But Peter Scolari and Colin Powell just passed away here recently. And so I just wanted to say to the friends and family of Peter Scolari and Colin Powell, condolences. So, moving on, we are going to talk about Alec Baldwin and his shooting. Unfortunate incidents in the Hollywood community. I know Alec Baldwin is probably distraught that he accidentally shot someone with a prop gun that's not supposed to be loaded or have anything in the barrel that could possibly fire out and kill someone. But that's exactly what happened. And that's not the first time it's happened. It's not even the second time it's happened. I thought at this point Hollywood would change the way they do things so that would not even be a possibility of happening. That's what they need to do. Hollywood needs to do. They have to change things so that it's not possible for someone to accidentally get shot on a movie set where they don't need to be firing an actual gun with a propellant in it. But we'll get to the conversation about that momentarily in a minute. I want to talk a little bit about sports right now, because sports are baseball. It's in the baseball playoffs. They're knee deep into the playoffs, and it looks like the Atlanta Braves are going to go to the World Series. This is the first time they have defeated the Dodgers, the Los Angeles Dodgers. So the Braves are going to the World Series. So congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. Not a team that I care about, but if any of you do care about the Atlanta Braves, they're going to the World Series. I'm not sure out of the American League who's going to go to the World Series. I did not hear that news. I had not been watching. I had only turned to some of the baseball games because I'm a sports fan. None of those teams are any team that I'd root for. I used to like the Dodgers when I was a